What if the very thing that's making your life feel heavy is your desperate need for certainty? Since childhood, we're taught that we need to have everything figured out, that a good life is one where everything is under control, predictable, planned. But let me ask you something. How often does life actually go according to plan? The truth is, it doesn't. And yet we keep trying. We chase certainty like it's oxygen. We try to control every outcome, predict every step, and avoid every surprise. And what does that give us in return? Anxiety, exhaustion, the constant fear that we're not doing enough or that we're about to lose everything we've worked so hard for. Michel de Montaigne, a French philosopher from the 16th century, saw through this illusion. He wrote something that still echoes powerfully today. A man who fears suffering is already suffering from what he fears. In other words, your resistance to uncertainty is what's hurting you, not the uncertainty itself. In this video, we're going to dismantle the lie that you need to be in control. We'll explore what Montaigne really meant, why letting go doesn't mean giving up, and how embracing uncertainty can actually set you free, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. By the end, your relationship with fear, change, and the unknown might never be the same again. Because maybe, just maybe, the life you're looking for isn't found in control, but in surrender. Let's be honest. We all think we're in control. We make plans, we set goals, we build routines, and we convince ourselves that if we just do everything right, nothing bad will happen. But life doesn't work that way, does it? You can eat healthy and still get sick. You can work hard and still lose your job. You can love deeply and still be left. Control is a comforting illusion, and like any illusion, it feels good until it breaks. And when it breaks, we panic. We scramble to fix what went wrong. We blame ourselves. We try to force life back into a box it never fit into in the first place. But here's the truth. Montaigne understood centuries ago. Life is a continual process of dying. That might sound dark, but it's not. It's liberating. Because once you stop pretending you can control everything, you can finally breathe. You can start living in the present instead of being held hostage by future fears. Think about this. How much of your stress comes from things you can't control? How many nights have you lost sleep over outcomes you couldn't predict? The world is unpredictable. That's not a flaw. It's a reality. And the sooner you accept that, the sooner you start to feel light again. In the next part, we'll explore why your fear of uncertainty isn't actually about the unknown, it's about something much deeper. And once you understand it, everything begins to shift.
Let's go deeper. Most people say they fear the unknown, but if you really stop and examine that fear, you'll see something else hiding underneath. We don't fear uncertainty itself. We fear what we think it might bring: failure, rejection, loss, disappointment. We play out worst-case scenarios in our heads over and over as if worrying about them might protect us from the pain. But here's the paradox. The more we try to mentally prepare for pain, the more we suffer in advance. You're not afraid of uncertainty. You're afraid of losing what makes you feel safe. Your job, your identity, your relationships, your version of the future. And it's this attachment that creates your suffering. Montaigne knew this long before modern psychology gave it names. He observed human behavior with radical honesty and wrote, "He who is not content with little will never be content with much." What does that mean in the context of uncertainty? It means the more your happiness depends on things going a certain way, the more fragile your peace becomes. But here's the good news. It doesn't have to be this way. You don't have to fear uncertainty. You can actually befriend it. In the next part, we'll explore how embracing the unknown can lead to something you might not expect, a kind of inner strength you never knew you had.
Here's something most people never learn. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. Surrender is not weakness. It's power in its purest form. Because when you stop fighting reality, something incredible happens. Your energy returns. All that mental effort spent trying to predict, control, and avoid, you get it back, and you can finally use it for something better, living. Michel de Montaigne observed that much of our suffering doesn't come from what happens to us, but how we resist what happens. He wrote, "A man who worries before it is necessary worries more than is necessary." In other words, your fear of what might happen is often worse than the event itself. Now think about this. How many times in your life did something go wrong, only to lead you to something better later? How many painful endings were actually new beginnings in disguise? When you surrender to uncertainty, you begin to trust the unfolding. You stop demanding that life follows your script, and you start becoming curious about what it might have in store for you. That's not passive, that's not lazy, that's courage. Because it takes far more strength to face the unknown with open hands than with clenched fists. In the next part, we'll uncover what happens inside you when you stop resisting, and how embracing uncertainty rewires your entire experience of life. Something begins to shift the moment you stop resisting the unknown. At first, it feels unfamiliar, even scary. You're used to being on high alert, trying to prepare for every possibility. But as you start to let go, you notice something surprising. Your mind quiets down, your body relaxes, your breathing deepens. And in that stillness, you begin to see things differently. You realize that uncertainty isn't the enemy. It's the space where growth happens. When everything is known, controlled, and familiar, nothing evolves. But in uncertainty, you discover new parts of yourself, strengths you didn't know you had, passions you never explored, connections you never imagined. Michel de Montaigne believed that the more we accept the unpredictability of life, the more we develop what he called a soul that can live with itself. That's not about perfection. It's about presence. It's about becoming the kind of person who doesn't need everything to go right in order to feel right inside. And that, ironically, is what gives you true freedom. Because now you're not living in fear of what might collapse. You're living in alignment with what's real, right now. In the next part, we'll explore a powerful mindset shift that Montaigne lived by, and how applying it can instantly reduce your daily stress. Here's a truth most people never question. We assume life is supposed to be comfortable, stable, and predictable. So when it isn't, we feel like something's wrong. But Michel de Montaigne flipped this idea completely. He didn't expect life to be smooth. He expected it to be wild, inconsistent, and fragile. And that changed everything. When you stop expecting certainty, stress loses its grip. It's like this. If you expect the road to be straight and smooth, every bump feels like a crisis. But if you know the road is winding, you drive differently. You're alert, flexible, ready. Montaigne once wrote, "My life has been full of terrible misfortunes, most of which never happened." Think about that. How many terrible things have you played out in your mind, only to realize later they never came true? You've lived through 1,000 imagined disasters, and yet, here you are. What if you didn't need to rehearse every failure before it arrived? What if you could trust yourself to handle things if and when they come? That's the shift. Stress isn't always caused by what's happening, but by what you believe should be happening instead. Drop that belief, and you drop the weight. In the next part, we'll dive into how this mindset doesn't just free you, it actually allows you to connect more deeply with others and with yourself. Here's something beautiful that no one tells you. Embracing uncertainty doesn't isolate you. It connects you deeply. When you stop pretending you have everything figured out, you open space for something real. Authentic connection. Because guess what? No one has it all figured out. We're all improvising. We're all walking through life with incomplete maps, shaky hands, and hopeful hearts. Michel de Montaigne was one of the first thinkers to openly write about his doubts, fears, and contradictions. He didn't hide behind a perfect image. He let people see the mess. And that made him timeless. He said, "Every man has within himself the entire human condition." That means your uncertainty isn't a flaw. It's part of what makes you human. And when you allow others to see that, your vulnerability, your questions, your honest not knowing, you create space for deeper relationships. You stop performing. You stop competing. You start relating. The pressure to always be confident, always be certain, always be in control, it melts away. And in that space, you can finally be seen, not as someone who has all the answers, but as someone who is courageously living the questions. In the next part, we'll explore how living with uncertainty actually increases your creativity, intuition, and resilience, and why the unknown may be the most fertile ground for becoming who you truly are. Here's something to remember. Nothing new is born in the comfort zone. Growth doesn't happen in certainty, it happens in motion, in change, in the space where you don't yet know what's coming, but you show up anyway. That's where your creativity lives. That's where your intuition awakens. That's where your soul expands. When life is too rigid, there's no room to evolve. But when things are uncertain, when the future is open and undefined, you're invited to create, to adapt, to explore. Michel de Montaigne understood this deeply. He wrote, "The value of life lies not in the length of days, but in the use we make of them." And how do you use your days fully? By being present, not stuck in your head trying to control what hasn't happened. The unknown isn't empty, it's full of possibility, but you have to stop fearing it long enough to step into it. Let go of the illusion that your life must follow a straight line. Let go of the idea that success is about certainty and control. Real fulfillment often comes from detours, disruptions, and unexpected turns.
When you learn to trust uncertainty, you stop shrinking your life to fit your plans and start expanding your plans to fit your life. In the next part, we'll reveal how people who embrace uncertainty often become the most grounded, centered, and free, and how you can cultivate that inner peace starting today.
Here's the paradox. The more you try to control life, the more anxious you become. But the more you accept life's unpredictability, the calmer you feel. It seems backwards, but it's real. Why? Because peace doesn't come from controlling everything. It comes from trusting yourself to face whatever comes. People who embrace uncertainty don't live without fear. They just stop letting fear dictate their choices. They develop what Montaigne hinted at in many of his writings, a quiet inner confidence. Not because they know what will happen, but because they've learned to live well even when they don't. That's true strength. Not rigid, not stubborn, but flexible, open, alive. You've probably seen it before. Someone who moves through chaos without crumbling. Someone who doesn't panic in the unknown, but pauses, breathes, adapts. That could be you. You don't need all the answers to begin. You don't need guarantees to grow. You just need the courage to keep walking, one honest, uncertain step at a time. And here's the truth Montaigne would remind us. No wind is favorable to the sailor who doesn't know where he's going. But once you stop obsessing over perfect conditions and start trusting the journey itself, the winds of life begin to work with you. In the final part, we'll bring everything together and leave you with one powerful shift that can forever change the way you experience uncertainty.
You've heard it all along. Life is uncertain. But now, it's time to live it. Michel de Montaigne didn't just write about uncertainty. He embodied it. He embraced life's unpredictability with curiosity and courage. And here's the final truth for you. Freedom is not found in controlling life, it's found in embracing it. When you surrender to the unknown, you release the burden of impossible expectations. You stop fighting the river and start flowing with it. That doesn't mean life becomes easy, but it becomes easier. Because you're no longer wasting energy resisting what you can't change. You become the sailor who doesn't need a perfect wind because you trust your own skill to navigate whatever comes. This shift can transform your relationships, your work, your self-esteem, your entire experience of being alive. So here's your invitation. Stop chasing certainty. Start embracing uncertainty. Step into the freedom that's been waiting for you all along. Because when you do, life truly becomes easier. And that's the power of Michel de Montaigne's wisdom, alive and breathing inside you.